What if I told you that one of the most futuristic cars ever designed, a sleek, solar-powered vehicle that promised 1,000 miles per charge, might never reach the road? What if I told you that 40,000 hopeful buyers who believed they were investing in the future of clean transportation may be walking straight into a financial disaster eerily similar to one that already happened over a decade ago? Because this isn't just a story about Aptera Motors. It's a story about how history repeats itself, and how innovation can turn into illusion when technology, money, and belief collide. To understand what's happening today, we need to go back to where it all began. The modern electric vehicle revolution really started around 2008, when Tesla launched its first Roadster, and dozens of ambitious startups raced to claim their piece of the future. One of those pioneers was Aptera Motors, founded by Steve Fambro and Chris Anthony in Vista, California. Their idea was as daring as it was beautiful. A three-wheeled, solar-assisted vehicle that could travel over 1,000 miles on a single charge. It looked more like a spacecraft than a car, a teardrop of aerodynamic perfection gliding through the air. The concept caught headlines, drew in dreamers, and inspired believers. But as time would reveal, building the future is much harder than talking about it. The road ahead would prove more treacherous than anyone imagined. We often hear about range anxiety, the fear of running out of battery. But there's something even more serious plaguing the EV world: charging anxiety. And for some, even charging trauma. Manufacturers love to boast about their growing charging networks, but reality paints a very different picture. Ask almost any EV owner what frustrates them most, and they'll tell you it's charging. According to a 2024 Harvard study, up to 1 in 4 public charging stations fails to work properly. Cables are broken. Software crashes mid-charge. Payment systems glitch out. Even major players like Electrify America and EVgo struggle with reliability. The reason? A gold rush for government subsidies. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act poured $7.5 billion into EV charging infrastructure, and companies rushed to grab a share, prioritizing speed and expansion over quality and durability. The results were predictable. In the brutal winter of 2022, Chicago became a frozen graveyard of Teslas, cars dying in lines at superchargers as cold weather slashed battery efficiency by up to 40%. For many, that experience left lasting scars. This is the side of the EV story that rarely makes headlines: the human frustration, the anxiety of not knowing whether your car will make it home. And for Aptera buyers, that problem is only the beginning. Aptera's story has a dark past, one that many new reservation holders don't even know about. Back in 2011, Aptera Motors collapsed completely. After collecting deposits from more than 4,000 customers, the company shut down without ever delivering a single production vehicle. They had promised cars in 2008, then 2009, then 2011. But funding ran dry. They needed $50 million to begin production. They never got it. Investors lost confidence, deadlines slipped, and the dream evaporated. Now, fast forward to today. In 2019, the same founders revived Aptera, with the same dream, same design philosophy, and sadly, the same pattern. Production was promised in 2020, then 2021, then 2022, then 2023, then 2024. Now, it's 2025, and they're saying next year, for sure. But according to SEC filings, as of March 2025, the company held just $13 million in cash. Nowhere near enough for mass production. They blamed funding delays, the exact same excuse they gave 14 years ago. More than 40,000 customers have now placed deposits, just like the 4,000 who lost theirs in 2011. And the parallels are chilling. Aptera's radical design isn't just futuristic, it's legally different. Because with 3 wheels, it's not technically classified as a car at all. Under US law, it's considered a motorcycle. That classification means Aptera doesn't need to pass the same crash tests as standard 4-wheel vehicles. They can skip many of the expensive and rigorous safety certifications that traditional automakers must meet. On paper, that's a clever, cost-saving move. In reality, it's a gamble with physics. 3-wheel vehicles have inherent stability issues, particularly during sharp turns or emergency maneuvers. The teardrop shape may look elegant, but it's inherently more prone to rollover risk. Aptera has promised voluntary crash testing, but hasn't shared any timeline or test results. So buyers are effectively putting down money for a vehicle that may not legally qualify as a car, affecting everything from insurance rates to licensing to accident liability. And that's not a design quirk. It's a business decision, one that cuts corners in safety to cut costs in production. Aptera's marketing hook is its solar capability. The claim that its panels can deliver up to 40 miles of range per day from sunlight alone. In theory, that means you may never need to plug in. In practice, that's pure fantasy for most users. To achieve that 40 miles, you'd need perfect sunlight, ideal parking angle, clean panels, and no clouds. Conditions that rarely exist in real life. Independent tests suggest the real number is closer to 10 to 15 miles per day. That's not bad, but it's a far cry from the miracle being sold. The physics don't lie. Aptera's panels produce around 700 watts at peak efficiency. That's enough to run a small microwave, not power a 1,800-pound vehicle at highway speeds. And during winter? Shorter days, snow, and cloud cover render those panels nearly useless. For drivers in northern states, the solar advantage disappears for half the year. To make things worse, those panels add $5,000, $8,000 to production costs. Money that could instead power a regular EV for years. It's a brilliant marketing story, but a misleading one. Since 2019, Aptera has raised more than $130 million through crowdfunding, without delivering a single car. Each funding round comes with the same promise. This is the last one before production. But every year, the cycle repeats. New investors come in. Timelines shift. Money runs out. Another round begins. This is how Ponzi dynamics start. When new funds sustain operations instead of achieving actual milestones. In July 2025, the company announced their final funding round, claiming they had enough to begin production. But SEC filings told a different story. They still needed another $60 million just to reach the starting line. This means current investors and thousands of reservation holders are funding ongoing operations, not manufacturing. It's a dangerous structure that looks less like innovation and more like financial illusion. Aptera claims its vehicle can achieve 10 miles per kilowatt-hour, roughly 4 times more efficient than a Tesla Model 3. They attribute this to their incredibly low drag coefficient of 0.13. But real-world engineering paints a different picture. That kind of efficiency would require impossible conditions. Perfectly smooth roads, no wind, no stops, no heating or air conditioning. Independent experts estimate that Aptera's real-world efficiency is overstated by 30 to 50%. And the trade-offs required to chase those numbers are alarming. Ultra-light materials that compromise crash safety, narrow tires that reduce traction, a cramped cabin that sacrifices comfort. Once again, the physics don't care about marketing. At this point, Aptera is more than a company. It's a belief system. Over 40,000 reservation holders defend it online with near-religious conviction. They see Aptera as a symbol of energy independence and environmental virtue. a rebellion against legacy automakers. But belief doesn't manufacture cars, and passion doesn't replace physics. This blind optimism mirrors the broader EV movement, where owning an electric car isn't just a choice, it's an identity. And that's what makes Aptera's story so tragic. It's not just about lost money, it's about lost faith in innovation, in progress, and in the idea that technology always moves us forward. 15 years after its first failure, Aptera has yet to deliver a single production car. And yet, thousands continue to place their bets, not on engineering, but on hope. This story isn't about a bad company. It's about what happens when vision outpaces reality, when idealism meets physics, and when the dream of a cleaner future blinds us to the lessons of the past. Because sometimes, the most revolutionary idea isn't inventing the future, it's finally learning from history.